For many of you, this video will probably seem outrageous, that I sold out, that Google paid me, etc. But no, just look how many subscribers I have. I'm showing the cases in this video because I saw them happen myself. I enjoy watching some of these monopolies fall. Some things we take for granted on the internet today happened because of a very young Google. This will also help us to see who Google used to be and what it has become. Let's enjoy watching pieces of monopolies fall. We start strong with a familiar villain, Adobe. Yes, I told you you'd be happy. If you heard the name Photoshop or opened PDF documents, you know what kind of company this is. If not, here's the short version. They are the masters of dark patterns. They use hidden fees. Their subscriptions are hard to cancel. They ship programs that slow down your PC, and they even almost use your Photoshop creations to train their AI. If you don't believe me, the US Department of Justice and the Federal Trade Commission forced them in 2024 to pay $150 million over abusive subscription practices. Unfortunately, that was only about the 0.5% of their profits that year. Now, back in the 2000s, they had a program called Adobe Flash. It made very interactive web pages and designs that weren't possible otherwise. It even let you play games in your browser. That was groundbreaking. Adobe Flash was installed in about 95% of the world's computer at the time. By comparison, Windows was on about 75% of PCs. They literally had more users than Windows. Despite that reach, Flash was closed and proprietary. Companies had to pay to use it, while users didn't pay. So what went wrong? I'm fine with companies paying and users not paying. The problem was how they treated the users. They bundled bloatware in the installer like the McAfee antivirus. In short, they installed programs you didn't need. They used a tracking more intense than today's cookies, and that tracking could regenerate if you delete it. Security flaws allowed attacks by Russian cybercrime groups and could let attackers access your webcam and microphone. All this while making roughly $422 million a year. How did the monopoly end? In 2015, HTML5 was released. It's an open technology that allowed the same amazing animated web pages Flash did, but free and open source. Companies no longer had to pay. Being open made it easier to fix vulnerabilities. Google is estimated to have contributed millions to the W3C, the nonprofit that makes web standards, so HTML and related projects could be completed. Google also applied economic pressure by moving YouTube to HTML5 instead of Flash. The rest of the web followed. Netflix and Twitch, for example, use HTML5. With Chrome, Google promoted open standards. Web pages loaded faster and no third-party installs were required. Other browsers followed and adopted HTML5 as well. To be fair, Google wasn't the only one supporting W3C. Microsoft, Mozilla, Opera, Facebook, Intel, Apple, and even Adobe contributed. Though I don't know if they keep donating after they ruin their business. Thanks to HTML5, you can watch this video on YouTube because it allows an optimized video codec that helps save battery or avoid getting hacked just by watching a video. Let's move on to the next monopoly. Microsoft and Yahoo. Most younger people have probably never heard of Yahoo. In the late 90s, Yahoo was basically the Google of its day. It was the most famous search engine then. In the early internet, email was a revolution. It let people communicate quickly across distances. This was before WhatsApp, social networks, Discord, and smartphones. Email was the fastest way to connect and also to avoid a fatal destiny. If you forwarded that email to 20 friends. Do you remember chain emails? Everyone wanted an email account. Microsoft with Hotmail and Yahoo with Yahoo Mail formed a duopoly that controlled about 70% of the users. So what was the problem? They limited mailbox sizes to an astonishing 2 megabytes. For example, this photo is 0.5 megabytes, so you could only send 4 photos like this before your mailbox filled, and you could not send or receive more emails. If you didn't log in for 30 days, they deleted all your emails. They also filled the interface with a lot of ads. To avoid these problems, you could pay $20 a year for more storage. These practices limited email's usefulness for many people. Remember, this was the early 2000s. No smartphones, not everyone had a PC or home internet. People checked email at cyber cafes. How did the monopoly fall? Well, Google started in 2004 with Gmail and said, "This is my email," and offer 1 gigabyte of storage and free. More or less like this visually. Totally destroying the dominance those two companies had in email. As a curiosity, Gmail was launched on April 1st, 2004, which is April Fool's Day in the United States, so people clearly did not believe that someone would offer them an email with that capacity and free. The project was led by Paul Bouchet, Google employee number 23. Google also trolled the competition. The Gmail page showed an storage counter that kept increasing, implying your storage was growing every day, just to annoy Yahoo and Microsoft. Let's go to the third case. The GPS. What you know as Google Maps, which you not only use to get to an address, but even to view a location without being there, and for free. It was not always like that. In the past, to enjoy something similar, which was only a map with your location to get to an address, you needed a separated device that could cost between $200 and $600. Those maps were limited. They lacked many routes and addresses. You had to buy yearly updates on CD or removable memory. Maps were sold by country or region, not for the whole world. Imagine pulling that out just to see where your Uber is coming from. What happened next? In 2009, Google introduced turn-by-turn navigation after launching the first Google Maps. They added interactive maps and voice directions. You didn't even need to look at the screen. The service became free, with free updates that let anyone have maps and location services without paying. It evolved into Google Earth and other services that support traffic apps, delivery, 3D terrain model for urban planning, historical satellite imagery analysis, and monitoring deforestation and climate change. This gave us access in the palm of our hand to a truly useful service, basically just by having a smartphone. It didn't exactly end a monopoly, but it made powerful mapping available to everyone. So, did you enjoy watching big corporations lose millions? I did. I had to limit the videos to just 3 cases. I hope it's clear why they were monopolies. If you like this video, give it a like and subscribe. I'm working hard to increase the frequency of the videos. These aren't the only cases. If you want, we can make a second part. I'm Rash, and I'll see you in the next remental video.